Hello and welcome to Mindset Kitchen. My name is Diana Paliokaite and I'm the host of the show. And I have a huge pleasure to have Larissa Astara Gray in my kitchen. Hello, Larissa.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your kitchen. I'm so excited about talking today.
Yes, me too. And you feeling good?
Yes, I'm feeling amazing.
Even though you traveled from quite far today.
Yes, it's been a 3-hour journey down from
Wow.
So,
Well, I hope my meal is at least worth it, all the journey that you arrived here. But you have an amazing story. Please tell me a bit about yourself.
all right. So, when I was 13, I had the whole world ahead of me. I was a straight A student. I came from a good family, a good home. But I was chatting to some girlfriends, and as you do as little girls, we all had a truth circle. And every single one of the girls told me that they'd lost their virginity. But I hadn't. And oh, did I want to fit in? Did I want to be part of the crowd? Yeah. So I kind of said to one of the guys that I'd been seeing that I was ready to maybe move on to the next step. And a few weeks later, my friend's parents were away at a holiday and we had a party at her house. And this older boy, who was 17, I was only 13, got me in the downstairs toilet and said, right, you said you were ready? I was like, no, not here, not like this, no. And he was like, you prick tease, you can't do this to me, made me feel awful and just got me up against the wall and raped me. And at that point, my voice was taken away from me. Mm. He went out bragging to all the lads and I was just left huddled up in a little ball. And my friend came in and was like, what's happened? And I said, he's just raped me. And she said, well, you just have to get up and get on with it. It was like none of my feelings were to be paid attention to. They were the older boys. We had to like just shut up and put up. And another girl had said that he'd done a similar thing to her and she'd been completely slut-shamed and taken, down. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So I just swallowed it and buried it. And that started me really feeling like I was unfit for human consumption, that I was so full of self-hatred, no man would want me, but also at the same time beliefs that all men wanted from me was sex. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just kept giving out sex because I had no respect for it anymore. The way that I envisaged losing my virginity, as most women would like for themselves, or most men would like for their daughters, would be in a loving and honouring and respectful way, maybe some candles, maybe just being tenderly held, nothing like that. So yeah, and then the thing was as well, Dania, I then found out that every single one of the girls in the truth circle had lied. So I felt severely betrayed. Wow. By all of them too. Yeah. And I don't know whether they did it so that I'd find out what it was like, or whether they did it because they just wanted to sound like they were better than that they'd done something that they hadn't. But yeah, I'd kind of got betrayal from all sides. But I felt so full of self-hatred that I just didn't feel comfortable being me. I drank alcohol to numb out some of the pain. And then that got me into more toxic relationships. I'd have sex sometimes, not because I wanted to, because I thought the man wanted me to. And then I got slut-shamed. And I just went down this negative road of attracting really toxic relationships. And by the time I was in my early 20s, I was going out with a very big drug dealer that was a really nasty piece of work. And when when the relationship started to get violent, I thought, I need to get out of this. This is not where I want to be going. But as soon as I tried to, then he started to destroy my life and he didn't want to let me go. I had to get court injunctions out on him. And or, you know, even those didn't work. It was just absolute hell. I ended up in hospital with, I couldn't speak English. I'd got kind of like the whole of the left side of my body had gone into like a kind of mini kind of stroke. I had brain scans and stuff like that. And then luckily he got caught and he was taken away and he went into prison. But when he got out of prison, he found me, and the toxicity and the relationships I even attracted while he was away were bad. And then when he got out, he'd started using heroin when he was in prison. And then because he knew he could control me with that, then he got me on that. And I used it because it is the strongest painkiller in the world. And I was just full of pain.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah, and I cleaned up from heroin 24 years ago now. But that wasn't the end. That wasn't the happy ending, because when you've had so many different issues, all the different levels of things build up. And so I got clean off heroin. It was three things that got me clean. One was acupuncture, two was energy healing, and three was a drug implant. And I had it done at a clinic in Belgravia, and it's a drug called naltrexone. It's an opiate blocker. So if I used opiates, it wouldn't work. And each implant lasted 5 weeks. So I had 5 of those, and it gave me 5 weeks to come back to the planet. But at the same time, the acupuncture helped build my body up, because when I got off heroin, I was only 6.5 stone. I was just, you know, a mess. And then the energy healing helped me understand all of these different human dynamics of why we did certain things, that we aren't so bad. I acted like this because of this, and it helped free me from a lot of the emotional pain. But that healing journey, it's like layers of an onion. And me and my friend, we call it the eternal onion, because there's always different layers that we uncover of ourselves to help us get back to that beautiful innocence that I had when I was 13, before all of these things started to build up.
Larissa, thank you so much for sharing so openly and sharing the vulnerability, what you had to go through. And your story is so inspiring, because what you do with it now is where it takes us to the present moment. So can you tell a little bit now what you're doing now to kind of give awareness about this to everyone?
Well, what I'm doing now is I'm going into schools and colleges, and I'm giving positive sex education talks. So I share some of my story. I get the young people to really, really understand the deep mental and emotional impact that a negative sexual experience can have, and that it's something that they need to really take their time before they engage in. I give them a lot of tools to help them really understand boundaries and consent, to feel comfortable saying no, and to feel comfortable receiving no, because they, you know, that's probably one of the biggest things, if they can feel comfortable with those two things, and not to feel like they have to do anything to please anybody else, that they connect to themselves and really, you know, follow that gut, whether they want to do something or not, and to have really conscious communication around their sexuality, so they feel empowered with it. They're not game playing. There's no grey area. You know, you wouldn't go into a business meeting without finding out about the other business, what each of you are going to put into it, what you're going to get out of it.
Exactly.
So, but yet people go into sexual experiences like that, and they're leaving themselves vulnerable. You know, if you are going to have a one-night stand, but you know it's going to be a one-night stand and both parties are happy with that, no problem. It's where somebody's game playing and pretending that it's going to be something else when it's not, and playing with somebody's life and emotions, because it isn't a game. It's somebody's life you're playing with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in turn, you brought these 3 messages that we're going to discuss today, which are nicely tying in with your story and what you are talking about in schools and all young people. Before I read the messages, or the first message, I'm going to tell what I'm going to be cooking, because Larissa has chosen duck. We give me some other options as well, but I've chosen to cook duck for you. She's listed out all the things that she likes, she doesn't like, and I created this meal. Actually used the meal recipe from the internet, which I normally do. I don't really reinvent anything, and I add a little bit of my own sometimes, just because I try them and I'm like, it's missing something. So I'm making a duck breast, and this dish is actually, it's a spring dish, and I've got the ingredients of fresh peas, asparagus, new potatoes. It's almost like we're calling the spring now because it's enough rain. So it's going to be a dish that will be light and easy to eat and pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to read the message, and then I'm going to tell what I'm doing with the duck breast, and we can continue. So the first message is, feel comfortable talking about the most powerful force in the universe. So before we get in, I love that, because I had a conversation with Larissa, and you referred to this, the most powerful force in the universe. And then I started talking about humans, and I realized I watched a lot of David Attenborough with my son. It's everywhere. It's not humans. It's the whole nature. So it's absolutely fascinating. So before we get in, I'm going to just score duck breast to render the fat. We don't want to eat the fat. It's a soft tissue. Don't want to rip it too much. Why did you choose a duck, by the way?
I really, really love the taste of duck. And I think through my healing journey, I've done such a lot of different types of healing, and I believe that each animal has a specific energy. So the duck energy is about protection, and I think that's really important when you're working with sexuality, because it is about protecting this very special, sacred, creative God force.
Exactly. So this goes really well with your message. So I'm going to put these two breasts in the pan and cook them around 8 minutes on one side until all the fat completely runs. I'm just putting some salt on, and then some black pepper. No need any oil or anything. Just pop them in there. There you go. Okay, Larissa. So let's talk about the first message, about the most powerful force in the universe.
Yeah. Well, Diana, nobody would be here without it. It is the most powerful force in the universe. It's created every single one of us. And how amazing is that? You just feel that. Yet, why is it so disrespected? Why has it got this negative energy around it? Why is it so shamed and feared? And it doesn't really need to be. It is a beautiful source of pleasure if it is done in the right way, in an honouring, respectful, beautiful way. And so there's so many things in our society that make it wrong. There's a lot of negative input from television programs. Just starting with sex scenes for a start. Probably over the years that I've watched television, there's probably maybe 2 or 3 sex scenes that I've thought, actually, that's how I'd like to be treated. So there's that little imprinting that's going in. Often it's portrayed as very kind of animalistic and hard, and often people just do it up against the wall without taking their clothes off. It's just like, there's no kind of real caressing and honouring side to it. And then you've got all the reality TV type programs like Love Island, which actually, I feel sometimes, are they actually set up to encourage cheating and encourage this negative behaviour that it doesn't help anybody? And then we've got the music industry. And the music industry, the lyrics in some of them are so toxic, encouraging like lad culture behaviour, misogynistic behaviour. calling women disrespectful names, and the music videos, the women are like lapping it up in there, like, you know, bad boys and acting in certain ways. And it just is one massive disempowerment. In religion, a lot of religions have kind of demonized sex to a certain extent as well. You know, I'm from a Catholic family. My mom's Irish, and she could never speak about sex. You know, she's never spoken to me about sex when I was younger. Obviously, since I've changed my attitude around it and I've done a lot of work on myself, we're now able to talk about it in a very, very different way. But it was something that Catholics, you know, they only do after marriage, and it has, you shouldn't ever use contraception. There was very, you know, certain rules around it, and it was a big sin to do it. So, you know, as a child, I thought as well, like, if I had any sexual interaction, I would go to hell. It would be a sin. Other religions, probably not as hard. I don't know everyone. That's just my personal experience. Gosh, what other things?
And I wonder why that is, to be honest. Obviously, it comes from as you say, the religions, the old times, and the various aspects within them that expect a child to have sexual intercourse at a certain age and so on. And nowadays, even when an adult, I don't see anyone talking about it. And when they talk, as you say, they talk in such a almost jokey way.
Yeah.
And perhaps there is an angle of privacy. So people want to keep it private, but if they do want to talk about it, they make fun out of it. So it becomes a bit more easier to talk.
Mm-hmm. It's got that kind of like sleazy energy. I mean, I grew up in the early 70s and 80s, and on the television at that time, we had, you know, Benny Hill and Kenny Everett, who, Benny Hill was this not the best looking big guy who ran around with these beautiful women in bikinis and stuff clad around them, and women were really, really sexualized at that point. And so that was a hell of a lot of sort of imprinting. And Carry On films, they were another thing that was kind of big, but it was like that energy of sleazy and like, oh, cheeky, saucy. It had a really kind of naughty energy around it. It was something that was naughty. And so that makes people feel like it's something they can't talk about, or they don't, you know, they shouldn't have anything, they shouldn't engage with it in that way. But actually, like, if I get you to just touch your arm, just poke it. How does your arm feel now? Probably. But if you were then to just stroke it very calmly and gently.
Yes, it gives another totally different emotion and feeling. Yeah.
And so when you bring like love and consciousness into something, it becomes super powerful and
and connection.
And so sex can be a really, really healing, a really nourishing, and a really expansive experience, and a very powerful experience if it's done in that correct way. When it's done with the fear and the sleaze and the shame way, it actually comes very, very disempowering, and it shrinks somebody's energy for both parts, really.
Yeah.
For the masculine and the feminine, or whatever gender you know.
Yeah.
So it's for the victim and the perpetrator of this. But because there's no real clear education around it, apart from, you know, negative things like pornography, people have to just guess to a lot of extent what they should do.
I love that. I love the message that this is dog making so much noise, so just cover it a little bit with the lid, but it's nearly done. I'm going to be resting it shortly. I love the message when you said when it's done in such a caring, lovingly and consciously loving way, it can be one of the most powerful experiences, and that's what connects humans and connects them on another level. So if you in a beautiful relationship, you just met someone, and that falling in love, that connection that you form via this experience, I think allows people to embed the connection that lasts long. And I guess people who don't appreciate that and do not have awareness of that particular aspect of young children, like you say, they are at risk in a sense to completely ruin the experience and not to probably take long time to ever have experience like that. And like yourself, would have to really work hard and go through a lot of aspects, a lot of issues and challenges to get to a beautiful place where you are now.
Yeah. And the really sad thing, Diana, is that the Children's Commissioner of the UK last year surveyed 1,000 students between 14 and 17, and 10% of them had seen pornography by the age of 9.
Wow. 9.
And 27% by the age of 11.
Shocking
and
facts.
Then 50% by the age of 13. And then most of them by the latter end. And what they've found is that children that come across pornography at such a young age have really bad self-esteem issues, because some of the images nowadays that are out there on pornography are pretty abusive and horrific and violent. And I wouldn't want my child coming across that and thinking that is what you need to do to a partner or to engage in to have a sexual experience at all.
So that ties in really nicely to your actually second message. Your second message is hidden truths of pornography. So before we get in, let me just quickly tell what I'm going to do. So cook the dog breast. Now I'm going to leave them to rest. I'm going to cover them with cooling film so they just keep the heat going. And what I'm going to do now is boil some peas, some lovely fresh peas on, and then I'm going to chop some potatoes and asparagus and just pan fry lightly. Essentially, the meal is almost done. I just need to prepare the sauce. But let's kick off your second messages. So I want to know all the hidden truth that's you know and you talk about and what you share to the world.
Yeah, so 43% as well of those 1,000 children surveyed said that they watch pornography because of peer pressure. Right. And one of my friends, her son's just gone into year 7, so that would be age 12. And in Snapchat groups, they've been bombarded with these images. So this is happening, really? It's out there, and that's really scary. And so in my talks, what I go into is what the negative effects on the female actors. So, for example, they get paid a lot more money for the more demeaning things that they do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. And often their agent will book them for something, but then when they get there, the film producers will say, "Oh no, we wanted you to do this, this, and this," but she'll say, "Well, I didn't want to do that." And they say, "Well, if you don't want the money," so then she's got a choice whether she gets the money or pays her bills or does it. And so they might go ahead and do it. This isn't all actresses. This is just a few, or quite a few. Also, some of the scenes can be very physically brutal. So a lot of actresses have to use like lidocaine, like numbing creams to numb out the delicate, because the skin in our sexual areas is very delicate. So they have to use like numbing creams to numb out those different areas. And also, because they're doing something that they don't often want to do, they might even have to stop filming, have a shot of vodka, just so that they can finish the scene. And scenes go, you know, you might see a scene on the thing for 20 minutes, but that scene might take a day or longer to put together.
Exactly.
Also, women are paid to be called horrible names, to look like they're enjoying it as well. But no woman wants to be called slut, or so, not unless she's got some issues she needs to deal with. And injuries are common because there's horrific things that are done, like choking, gagging, and slapping.
Oh my God.
And so again, they're paid more for that. And there's something as well which is pure abuse. It's called ATM, and it's nothing to do with a cash point. It's anal to mouth. And that then creates a lot of injuries and problems in the industry. The sepsis is rife in the porn industry because of things like that. Actresses, female actors get neck injuries, back injuries, anal fissures. They get sepsis. So there's a lot of things that happen. And also, they estimate that up to 50% of pornography that we see on the internet is human and sex trafficking. It's not just because the word pornography comes from the 19th century Greek word pornograph, which is to write about prostitutes. And back then they used to write about them, but then things have evolved and there's been pictures of them, but now they're quite graphic things. So no longer are we just watching prostitution. With the human and sex trafficking, we're actually watching live abuse, rape or abuse. And we won't know that it's that because they have to look like they're having a good time, or they'll get beaten. So there's no way out of it, and that's really quite shocking. And then for the actors, about 95% of male actors take erectile enhancement drugs to look bigger and to perform better. So again, that's giving a negative view of what the performance should be like, and negative view of the size of the genitals and stuff. A lot of the porn actors, because they're doing demeaning things to the women, they no longer see the women in the same light. They've kind of dehumanized them. And because of that, they often become drug addicts to cope with what they're doing. And there can be a lot of drug addicts as well with the female side of it too.
Wow.
Often after working in that industry for quite a long time, the male actors, the erectile drugs stop working. And because they've kind of dehumanized women, they find it really hard to even have sex at home or at work. So it kind of destroys a lot of their stuff, their life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what happens to the viewers, we have an amazing part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of our brain that gives us drive, makes us do good things, makes us choose the right things. So, you might not have wanted to get out of bed this morning, but then you thought, no, I want to do my mindset kitchen. I want to, talk to Larissa. So you got up and you got everything done. And that's really important. But then we've got the reward center at the back of the brain, which produces dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. But what porn is it's a fake dopamine hit. So it activates that part of your brain that makes you feel good. But the neuroscientist from Cambridge University, Dr. Valerie Vun, she's found that the same areas light up in compulsive porn users as drug addicts. So it means that they need their fix, but they don't necessarily like it or feel good about it. And you see, these days, you could, some people in the guys, lads have gaming rooms and they can have four screens up at the same time. So it can be a massive, they can set, once they get addicted, because porn addiction is massive, it happens to, it's 90% of it is male porn addiction. But that's probably because Diana said that as women, we don't actually enjoy seeing what is happening on a lot of these porn sites.
And you know what, Larissa, I wonder how many more people like yourself talk about it, because I've never met or never heard a lot of these things that you just told me, and I wonder how much more help you could get to make this wider, more impactful. And do you know that there are groups or there are other, summits, conventions, or anything that happens? Because you are the only speaker so far that I've met who actually talks about that, and that's another.
I think there's quite a few speakers out in the United States, because it's become such a big problem. Because, as I was saying, a lot of the porn addicts are male, and what happens, Diana, is that it's like normal drugs. At the beginning, you need a little fix to get a good feeling, a dopamine fix, and then you need a bit more and a bit more. And that's what happens. They start off with like quite soft porn, and then they might move up to more extreme or hardcore porn. And then what can even happen is they move on to porn that isn't even their own sexual orientation to get the same fix that they need to get this fix. And also, like drugs, when you come down, you go below baseline, so you can get into quite a depressive state of mind, and then you need to, increase your fix to get up to the next thing. Yeah. So, and then what happens is we're seeing young men now in their 20s and 30s with erectile dysfunction because of the porn addiction.
Wow.
But the good news is that once they abstain from it for 4 to 5 months, it can come, they get that back. But it shouldn't be like that. And the other thing is that we're training our brains to, when you're watching porn, you're training your brain to only get stimulated or excited by watching somebody else have sex, not by actually engaging in it yourself. And then what people do is they can't actually engage in a normal sexual relationship without watching porn at the same time. And it destroys relationships. It increases infidelity within relationships as well. Most, there's some studies out there on that. And of course, it increases domestic violence because you see the slapping and stuff. And once you watch something like that enough times, you think that that's normal. And so it brings violence into.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this, because it definitely raises the awareness, and hopefully it will raise the awareness more to the viewers as well, because I must say I didn't know so many things about that, and you're quite brave and confident to be talking about this. So I really admire you for that. Thank you for sharing. Before I read the third message, which is beautiful, I love that, and I can't wait to talk about it. I'm going to just tell what I've been doing in the background here. So I made some peas. Similarly, fresh peas, they're so much different than frozen peas.
Yeah.
I love frozen peas. I use them all the time for my son. But then you buy fresh ones, it's just totally different. And over here, I made a little kind of sauce with mint, parsley, lemon juice, and olive oil, salt and pepper. And it goes really nicely, kind of encompasses here. I've got here one of my favorite little micro herbs from Immature Garden. It's the company, a couple, they just started this company recently, and I've started growing them. It arrives in various packages, start growing them and using them on pretty much every food, and it looks so pretty.
So they're superfood.
Yeah. So I mean, you want to taste one. So I've got 3 different varieties, but they add a little bit either sweetness, a bit of bitterness. It's almost like a cress, for the sandwich. I've got other 2 as well, and and then in here, potatoes in the pan with asparagus, just slightly blanching almost them, not cooking too much, just to warm it up. That's that.
Fabulous.
So I'm going to read your 3rd message.
Okay.
Choosing to be yourself and not fit in.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
And Diana, that goes back to where it all went wrong. I desperately wanted to fit in. I desperately wanted to be part of it. But I really now, through, I'm going to be 50 this year, but I've been through sort of 24 years of a lot of healing and working on myself, a lot of personal development. And there's not one person that I've come across that hasn't felt the same way, that they don't fit in or they didn't fit in. And I just think that is what every kid needs to be taught. You all feel like you don't fit in. That is that. And hey, guess what? That's good. And it's okay not to fit in, because we're all here to do different things. We've all got our gifts and our purposes. And, I love the saying, and I always say it to my son, you just do you, because you are here to do something amazing. And so it's finding out about what you're here to do. And don't do anything just to fit in that is not going to work for you. Learning to say no in a really nice way is great, because if you say, oh no, I'd love to, but no, sorry. There's ways of saying no without like upsetting people, but also, you've got to have the right energy. You've got to mean what you're saying too, because people can feel when it's a no that's a yes or stuff like that. So, saying no to things that you don't want to do is a massive thing.
And you know what? I think this fitting in has been, in my generation and your generation, much more prominent, because we paid attention at so many things. And I think this generation from this century now, that we are kind of focusing a lot more on the positive side of it, and people really embracing the differences. And because I guess there is so much social media, so you can see more. Whereas when I was growing up, there was no social media. So what you see in front of you is all you get. Whereas now you can see so many different people, and how much they're embracing being themselves, from the way they look, from the way they talk. And it's actually the uniqueness is what makes each of us. And to be honest, it's taken me some time as well to overcome certain challenges as well. And my accent, for example, many times I would, perhaps with Mindset Kitchen, it's kind of like I'm now used to this. I'm actually watching myself on the videos and like, yeah, that's just me. I can't change that. Either people will like it or not. And it's just that aspect where whether people will like you or not, it's not really caring about it, because at the end of the day, you can't be liked by everyone.
Yeah.
And if I am myself, I like myself, I am myself, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then you will find people will not like you. Mm-hmm. And then you have to learn how to deal with that. And you will find people really like you because of how you are.
Yeah.
And I think it's understanding those both sides, that there will always be there, whether you are unique yourself or not, they still will be there. So might as well be yourself always,
Mhm.
and don't try to fit in.
Exactly.
Albeit I tried to fit in so many times in my life when I was younger, and I wish someone actually told me, don't try to fit in, be you. And perhaps I can't recall much, but my mom, did a lot of kind of positive talking with me as well, and she would say, no, you go and do it, but it wouldn't just sink in. You needed someone else. So I think the fact that you have a voice and now able to shine the light to people and talk about it. And do you talk about this at schools as well, this particular message?
Yeah, because it really ties into the consent aspect of things, and your ability to say no and yes, and feeling comfortable with your sort of expression. But what you just said then, when you try and fit in, when you try and do anything, it always fails. If you try and save money, you end up spending more money. If you try, so me and my son, it's always a rule. We never try anything. We do it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And that's it. It's just set into little mindsets that I'll fit in just being me. That's okay. And I don't have to act in any certain way to be accepted, because the more you are of you, the more people love you anyway. That's the irony.
I think that's exactly that, isn't it? Because they see you being yourself, and they really appreciate that, and they know you are trustworthy in turn. They know you, so they know when to come to you, why they come to you.
Yeah, you're not playing a game. Respect and honesty, these are the things that I bring in at school and college as well, because respect is just treating somebody the way that you want to be treated yourself. And honesty, like I said before, if you're completely clear and honest about every situation that you're getting into, everybody knows where they stand. There's no grey area, there's no murkiness. Everybody's empowered. It's when the gameplay and the gaslighting, all of those sort of things come in. And if you're gaslighting somebody or you're game playing with somebody, you're doing it because you're insecure about you, and then you won't actually be able to trust, because you can't trust yourself, then you'll never be able to trust somebody else. So it's really, there's such a lot of understanding to be done around those sort of things, and bring all of these areas to young people's attention.
And something else came out of my mind, if you're being yourself, not trying to fit in terms of finding your true career, finding what you love as well doing, because obviously there's loads of talk about imposter syndrome and all the things, because you're trying to fit in and trying to be someone you're really not, or trying to be someone that you perhaps want to be, but you won't be, because you are you. So I think I was just thinking back way to my time when I was trying to fit in. If I didn't try to focus on that external side of trying to fit in, maybe internally I would have found many more truths and easier ways of living and growing up. So it's a very powerful message, isn't it? Yeah, that brings me back straight away into the duck. Now that is ready. So this was cooking by eye, Larissa. I have no idea. It's medium, it's overdone.
Well, I quite like things rare anyway, so I'm okay.
Yeah, be nice, okay? Be nice. There you go. So I'm going to chop this up and then going to plate this for you. And do you cook yourself a lot?
Oh, I love cooking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I cook. If it's not once a day, or it's twice, if it's not twice a day, it's once a day.
Really? Nice. So that's good. You will appreciate that. I'm just going to...
Yes, it's always nice to be cooked for.
Yeah. You know what? I could say exactly the same, but I am the one who always cooks in the house. Yeah. It's kind of like I don't even think about it when I make meals. I do it and I am cooking again. It's just my second nature. And that's why really the show is, I love having people over.
Mm-hmm.
I love cooking to people. I love talking about food. Just kind of, doing everything with food whilst you're also having people over and laughing and having fun.
Yeah, love cooking and having friends over.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I will know. What would you normally be cooking?
Oh gosh. I like cooking steak. I like
Ah,
cooking
nice.
just
Loads of
loads
different
of things.
Yeah.
Chicken.
So
I like Mexican food. I like Indian food.
okay, so a bit like me. I love.
Oh,
I love.
Moroccan's one of my favourites.
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Wow, I don't really cook Moroccan, but I do love.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I do love Moroccan. I've got a secret ingredient. I earlier cooked a little bit of bacon, so crispy bacon, only because I felt like this dish needed a little bit of something salty and kind of to lift it up. Larissa, so what are your next steps now in terms of where are you going and the projects you are perhaps involved?
Well, really, quite a few people have said to me that this is a bit bigger than just schools and colleges.
Exactly.
And so I would really like to get my message out there. So I'm looking at approaching local radio stations and media to see how it can be highlighted in a much bigger way. But as long as I can get the education out there to as many people as possible, that's the goal. And it's to prevent the trauma. For 24 years, I've kind of worked helping people through their trauma and healing from their trauma. But now I want to work the other side and let's prevent it. They don't have to go through all of this. And as many people as I can prevent from going through this, the better. It's very rewarding when I'm in colleges and I'm seeing the students' light bulbs come on when they're realizing, and it's like they're freed from something. It's
okay.
Yeah, things are okay, and and it gives them, and I have some wonderful feedback. So it's just onward and upward, really. As much as I can get out there and do what I can do, then I'm here to serve. Yeah,
I admire for that. Thank you so much, Larissa. And the meal is
Wow,
ready.
look at that.
Just going to quickly show you. So duck breast with new baby potatoes, sweet peas, asparagus, a bit of bacon, and mint, parsley, lemon juice, and olive oil sauce.
Oh,
there you go, my lovely.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy.
Right.
And in the meantime, thank you so much for being here, for coming all this way here, and for sharing your vulnerable story, being vulnerable, and the story of true courage to come out and be here talking to us about it. And it's extremely powerful. So thank you for being you.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Thank you.
And I will put all the details of how to get in touch with you on my website, as always, alongside with the recipe that I slightly upgraded with lovely herbs and the bacon. And I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to tuck into this now.